I'm Larry Walkemeyer, and I'm the lead pastor at Light and Life Christian Fellowship in North Long Beach. I'm also a superintendent overseeing Southern California for our denomination, the Free Methodist denomination, and we're a church planting movement in both our local church and our conference. I want to talk to you today about launching with multiplication vision. In my opinion, when we plant a church, we should plant it with the same kind of vision that Jesus had when he started his church. When Jesus started his church, he launched it with multiplication vision and a multiplication model. Jesus didn't do ministry by getting a bigger and bigger crowd around him at Jerusalem because he really wasn't into addition. In fact, he said some things sometimes that just drove people away, literally. He had a different approach. I think that approach is really summarized well in Matthew 9:35-38, which is a great summary of Jesus' ministry style. It says this in verse 35, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." Do you see what Jesus did there? He went to where the people were. He shared the good news. He brought the power of the kingdom. He healed hurting people, and he taught the secret to the harvest, which was, first of all, ask. Pray to the Lord of the harvest to multiply workers. And number two, send. Send them to start works everywhere, not just build one bigger church in Jerusalem. And then in the next few verses in Matthew 10, you see him actually sending the disciples out two by two. In the parallel passage in Luke 10, he sends out the 72 two by two to do what he's been doing. In other words, Jesus wasn't trying to get people gathered. Jesus was trying to get people going. Our church takes its mission statement from this passage in Matthew 9 that I just read. We want to be a church that does what Jesus did, and we summarize it like this in our mission statement: reach, teach, mend, and send. As you prepare to launch your church, you've got to decide, what mission are you on? An addition mission or a multiplication mission? To launch with multiplication vision requires four essentials, in my opinion. You've got to understand multiplication vision. Secondly, you've got to have biblical multiplication values. Third, you need to understand multiplication behavior. And then you have to be contagious with multiplication passion. Let's break those down. First of all, you've got to understand multiplication vision. Now, vision is a strong mental image of the future that you feel that God has called you and the church you're planting to. Vision is that picture that you have in your mind of what your church plant will look like 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now. Let me ask you, when you dream about your church, what picture do you see? Vision is a picture of tomorrow that changes your decisions and actions today. Vision is also a blueprint that says if you want to look like this, then you will have to follow these plans. The blueprint is a path you will follow to your vision picture. Vision's like DNA. DNA are those genetic building blocks that will shape who you are. DNA is formed in the womb, and it stays with you the rest of your life. So, in the visionizing phase of your church plant, you must be very, very prayerful and careful about the DNA you are forming. And one of the major DNA questions you must answer is a church of addition or a church of multiplication. Because what you launch with, you will live with. The priority upon multiplication is not going to grow stronger later. It may very well grow weaker. What level of church are you seeking to build? Now, when I ask that question, I'm referring to the new resource from Todd Wilson called Becoming 5. Multiplication vision is a commitment to launch with at least level 4, but especially level 5 vision. Todd Wilson's definitions of church realities in Becoming 5 go like this. Level 1 is a declining church. Level 2 is a plateaued church. Now, none of us have a vision to plant a level 1 or level 2 church. But level 3 is a growing church, a church of addition, a church that's getting bigger and bigger. And this is the vision that most church planters plant with. But there's a higher vision. Level 4 is a church planting church that is planting other churches. It's reproducing itself at various rates, and this represents less than 4% of churches in America that will ever be level 4 churches. But there's even a higher level. Level 5 is a church that plants churches, that plant churches, that become a multiplication movement. It has a passionate focus on multiplication. It centers upon sending. It prioritizes parenting and grandparenting other churches. It has this vision to be a movement. And less than 0.1% of churches in America have a vision to be level 5. When we started Light and Life, the church that I pastor, we had a level 3 vision. Church growth for us was like the fourth person of the Trinity. You add, and add some more. It was what I call a lake church. We were building a lake church where people flow in and stay, and we had more and more people around one person, one pulpit, in one place. But what happened is we hit a ceiling at about 700 because we only have 39 parking spots at our church. And we had to decide, do we relocate and become a mega church, or did God have a different plan? It was at that point that the River Church vision was birthed. People would flow into Light and Life, and we would reach, teach, mend them, and then we would send them back out to start new churches in different neighborhoods. We would be a church that flowed, a river church. That river has been flowing for 15 years now, and we frequently give away large numbers of our people to plant churches. We started 19 churches nationally and dozens internationally, but guess what? We're only a level 4 church. We add, then give, and add, then give. But now we are asking God to re-engineer our DNA to become a level 5 church. We are praying to become a multiplication movement where exponential increase begins to happen because babies, grandbabies, and great-grandbabies are being born everywhere. The second thing you need to understand in order to launch with multiplication vision is biblical multiplication values, the convictions that create multiplication DNA. Anyone can have dreams of great fruit, but I want to know, what are your roots? Where does that vision flow from? If your vision is not deeply rooted in values and convictions, then circumstances will end up causing you to default to convenience and away from vision. Let me just simply list 8 biblical convictions that are shaping our vision. These are values that are shaping our vision. Number 1, we believe the creation principle of be fruitful and multiply still is at work today in the church. A creation principle that God is still following in the creation of new churches. Number 2, training people to go is the way that Jesus modeled ministry. Not just gathering, but sending them to go. Third, our conviction is that the church in the book of Acts models a ministry of multiplication. The more you study Acts, the less addition you see and the more multiplication you see. The fourth conviction for us is that church planting is indeed the most effective way to reach lost people. And isn't that what the church is all about anyway? Number 5 value for us is every disciple. Every disciple is gifted by the Spirit to reach the harvest and build the church. The pastor's ministry is to equip others, not to be the superstar. That's number 6. It goes with that fifth one, that every disciple can do ministry if the pastor will not try and be a celebrity, but will have humility enough to equip and empower and deploy ordinary believers into the harvest field. Our 7th one is, it is more blessed to give than to receive, that you can't outgive God. It's fun trying, just try it sometime. And number 8, every village or neighborhood needs a healthy Jesus-centered church. Now, these 8 biblical convictions are the brushes and colors that we are painting the future of our church with. And these, or convictions like them, must be your convictions if you want to launch with multiplication vision. The third thing you've got to understand is you've got to understand multiplication behaviors. In other words, markers of a multiplication mindset. You see, our values are not what we say. Our values are what we do. We can say we believe in multiplication, but do we behave with multiplication vision? Back on the farm where I'm from in Kansas, we used to say the proof is in the pudding, meaning you can tell me all you want about your great tasting pudding, but let me taste it. Put up or shut up. For us, our behaviors needed to line up with our vision and our values. Our church, Light and Life, had been a level 3 church, church with an addiction to addition. And as we tried to become a river church, to begin to multiply by sending out people, I was preaching the vision, I was championing the vision, but then our dynamic, great youth pastor who hadn't been with us that long came to me and said, "I'm hearing you, Pastor. God is calling me to go plant a church." And I said, "No, he's not." He said, "Wait a minute, you said that we're into multiplication now and that we should send our best." I said, "I didn't mean you." Eventually, God convicted me, and we ended up sending that youth pastor, and a message was sent to our church that our behaviors were going to align with our beliefs. When the church saw us do that, it sent a strong message that we were going to be a church of multiplication. There's some practical questions that can dig deep into the difference between our aspirations and our actions. Let me just give you these questions briefly, and you test yourself. Do you have a strategy for how you're going to multiply? Will your mission statement include a word of multiplication? Number 3, are you planting with an identified apprentice who will be your first church planter? Number 4, will you tithe to church planting from the start of your church? Number 5, will you teach multiplication as a value in your membership class? Number 6, will your stories champion the people who go as much as the people who stay? Number 7, will you send a planter within the first 18 to 24 months? Number 8, will you activate a church planter, and will that be prioritized over accumulating staff? Number 9, will your staff feel empowered to go, leave, and to plant? Number 10, will your people feel encouraged to leave with the next church plant? Number 11, will you plant before you buy your first building? 12, will you restrict mortgage debt to an amount that does not constrain multiplication? Number 13, will you plant before you go multi-site? And 14, will you plant 5 churches for every multi-site campus you start? And the last thing you need to understand is this. Will you be contagious with multiplication vision? Vision is more caught than taught. So if you want to launch with multiplication, you will need to be on fire for the expansion of the kingdom. If you want to know the temperature of a church, put the thermometer in the mouth of the pastor. When it comes to vision, if you don't bleed it, you can't lead it. And if you don't ooze it, your people will soon lose it. If you want to launch with this vision, you have to convince your core team. You have to light them on fire. And you have to be willing to prune anyone on the core team that has a competing vision to multiplication. You have to preach the vision, teach the vision, pray the vision, visit places that are doing the vision, tweet the vision, post the vision, Instagram the vision, champion the vision until you change the vision of those who are following you, who are helping to launch this church. So in conclusion, my prayer is that your church plant would not be typical, but it would be biblical. That your church plant will be one of the rare type that launch with a burning vision for multiplication. Don't just start a church. Start a movement. God bless you.